One way you can dress up your Affinity Photo 2 projects is by using gradients. The addition of gradient color can really make that text pop, and those images change from dull and drab to something more interesting that you or another person will enjoy. You're only limited by your imagination, so let's get started. Okay, for gradients, I'm going to give 3 examples, and this is going to be the first one. We're going to be making a ball. So the first thing that you want to do is to go up to File, and then go New, and then your new document window will open. Now normally mine opens automatically, but I wanted to show you where I was going just in case yours doesn't. I mean, everybody's is probably different, I don't know. But anyway, here we are. On this, we don't want any margins, so we'll click on Margins, unclick Include Margins, and then hit Create, and we have ourselves a white background. Now the next thing we're going to do is to go down to find the ellipse tool, and it's buried under here with all these other drawing tools. So we're going to go up to the ellipse tool and click on that and draw ourselves an ellipse. And I have no earthly idea why I have 3 of them, but we're going to get rid of them. Okay, so that we get the one that I really want. Probably because I unclicked the mouse. Okay, now I'm going to select the Move tool so I can move this around and maybe resize it a little bit to make it a little bit wider so that we have it more in the center of the screen. I mean, it really doesn't matter. But anyway, I need it to be in the center of the screen. Okay, the next thing we want to do is we want to fill it with a color. So we can go up here to Fill and click on the Fill thing, the Fill square, and select our blue color to fill it with. So I'll just click it here on the wheel. You don't have to use a wheel. You can go over here to Swatches and then pick a color off of that if you want. I mean, it really doesn't matter, whichever is easier for you, but I'm just going to go over here on my wheel and click a color, and I'm going to have a blue color for my ball. Now the next thing that I want to do is to put a gradient on it. So over here, I'm going to select this tool right here that looks like a baton that's sitting on some square thing, and that's a gradient tool. So I'll click on that and make sure ellipse is selected, because if it isn't, I will be writing all day and nothing will happen, and then we'll have a complete meltdown over here. Okay, so we'll click down and then pull the line across this so we can get our gradient. If we want our gradient to be a little bit darker, all we have to do is move the slider. But first of all, I want to point out 2 things. You have 2 nodes on this gradient tool. You've got this node right here, which is big, and this node right here, which is little. The big node means that it's active, and that means if you go up on the color wheel, you'll be able to, and you click on this color wheel up here, you'll be able to change the color. So let's click right here and see what happens, and see how it got lighter because I did that. If you want this over here to change, then we'll click on that, and we will just make this a little bit lighter. So in that way we can change our gradient. Now this is very, very subtle, but I'll show you how you can make it look a little different. Let's take our slider and move it. So we'll move it back and forth, and see how on the left it gets light when I do that. So we got it really dark back here and lighter up here. I think I'm going to click up here and try to make my gradient a little bit lighter than that. There, that's better. I like that. So my suggestion is to just fiddle around with it until you get what you want. And then when you get what you want on your gradient with changing this side color and then that side color and then moving the slider around, then you'll get what you want. Now see, by clicking on it, I gave you another node. We'll get into, in the next example, or in the example after that, how you can use multiple nodes to get different colors on this. Just to be on the safe side, I am going to select the Move tool so that I can get rid of everything. Now that I've got my gradient in there, the next thing I want is I want to click on the Ellipse tool, and I want to find the crescent, this crescent right here. Then we're going to draw in a crescent. Okay, here is a crescent. So that looks kind of good right there. Then on our crescent, we're going to fill it with a light color, which I'm going to select as white. So now we have a white crescent. I don't like where it is, so I'm going to choose the Move tool and move it around and go up here and move it around like that. And now with the crescent selected, what I'm going to do next is go up here to Layer, and I'm going to search for New Live Filter Layer. Go to Blur and Gaussian Blur and click on it. And that will open up a little box down here, the Live Gaussian Blur box. Okay, the blend mode that we want is going to be Lighten. So we'll click on Lighten, and then the radius, we want to move the radius around. Come on. Until we get the blur we want. Now see what's happening? When you get the blur you want, what's going to happen is you're going to get to where it looks like there's a light over there on our ball. And that's what we want. So I kind of like it right there. So I'm going to close the box. And then I want to do two more things. I want to go over here, click on the drawing tools again, click on my ellipse tool, and draw me a little circle. Okay, and my little circle is not where I want it, but that's okay. We've got our trusty Move tool where we can move the circle right here, and we have that. Now, we want to leave it white. Now, the next thing we want to do is we're going to put some text inside our ball. So I'm going to click on the text tool and type in 2. Okay, so that may be big enough. I want to move my 2 over, maybe a little bit bigger than that. Okay, so now let's take a look at it by clicking off of it. And now we have ourselves a billiard ball where we used two of the drawing tools, the ellipse and the crescent tool. We used the gradient so we could have it go from darker blue to lighter blue and not get too weird since the ball really isn't different colors. It's just lighter on one side. And we have a Gaussian blur, so you can give the illusion of having a light over there. And then all we had to do is to put an ellipse here and a number in there, and we have ourselves a billiard ball. So that is the first example of what you can use the gradients for. Another way you can use gradients is to spice up your text a little bit. And that's what I'm going to be doing right now. So like the last example, you're going to go up and go File, New, and then get rid of these margins, and then go Create, so we have our background. Now you're going to go to the Artistic Text tool and do that. And then we're going to type in some text. Gradients, that's a little big, isn't it? Come on. Okay. So now that we have that, we're going to add a little bit of color to this. So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that it's selected. And then you're going to go up to the gradient tool and click on it. And then I'm going to draw it from the top down. I guess it doesn't really matter, but you can just play around with this like you want. And so this node, remember the big node is the one that has the color in it. So I'm going to go over here and click that, and that will give me a color. And you have your gradients from from red to dark. Now, that's kind of boring to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some more colors in it. So let's just click right here. That will give you another node. See how big it is? And I'm just going to click any color on here. So there's a color. And notice how it changes color. And let's click up here too, and then we can just mess around with this a little bit. So I have this one. And let's do this. Okay, now remember, you can change things around just by, oops, don't want to do that. Okay, just by moving these handles. So experiment around with moving your handles around. Dang, but make sure that you don't do what I just did, or you'll have to undo forever. Move the handles around until you get the kind of color that you want to have. And if you don't want one of these, I think you can get rid of it. I haven't tried it, actually. So anyway, oops. So you can put as many nodes in here as you want, and this will tell you what the fill is. So you can change things around and all that sort of thing. Remember, you use these to change the color gradient. So that's a little bit about how you use the gradient tool to spice up your text a little bit. And as I said, play around with these. Some of these I need to start over. I wonder what would happen if I just delete. Oh, there we go. I had not done that before to admitting that. So let's get rid of that one. I just clicked on it and pressed delete. And then I got rid of all those extra nodes. I'm just playing right now, to tell you the honest truth. Okay. And let's see what happens if I click here and put another node in there. Let's click on yellow and see what it does. Doesn't do much, to be perfectly honest. So, but anyway, you can just play around with this, do what you want. Sometimes it might look better if you just pull it straight across, whatever. And that is gradients for your text. Okay, this is the last example of using gradients, and in this picture I have a picture of this woman on a screen. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go over here and select the rectangle tool. So there's our rectangle tool, and then what we're going to do is we're going to drag the rectangle tool until it completely covers up the woman on the screen. So then once it covers up the woman on the screen, you need to check and double check and triple check to make sure that the rectangle tool is selected. Then we're going to go over and select the gradient tool and pull it across the screen. Okay, so I pulled it across, and again, remember the nodes. This node is active. This node is not active. So with this node, what you're going to do is you're going to select your color, and I'll just, select this one right here. And then over here, I'm going to select another color, but I'm going to fancy this up a little bit, put in another node, and select another color, and put in another node, and select this color. I'm just spitballing here. Now remember, these little things right here, these sliders, you can move them and see how it changes your gradient. So that's how the gradient, what the gradient looks like right now. Now the question is, what does that have to do with the woman underneath? Well, right now, the rectangle is sitting over the woman so you can't see anything. But what we're going to do is we're going to change the opacity of this selected layer. So I'll pull that down and we will just change the opacity until you get the effect that you want. And so let's leave it like that. And so we unclick it, and here you go. You have the picture of the woman with the gradient that you want on top. And if we unclick that, there she is right there. Click it back so that the gradient is there. So pretty much, this gradient is masking. And that's all there is to it. I encourage you to play around with this. And I mean, it's not one of those things where you have to do it this way or have to do it that way. And then up here, you can see that this tells you what color you have, and this shows you the fill, and this shows you the fill on this particular rectangle, okay? Alrighty, so that's that. That's my last example. Give these 3 examples a try, and I think you'll have a lot of fun. I sure did.